All right. Erica?
Mm-hmm.
Even I got confused this time. I'm usually pretty good about keeping the book and the movie separate. But even I got confused this time. Because how much book versus movie is there here?
Lots of, it's mostly like a lot of teeny tiny little details. Lots of teeny tiny little details. Obviously, Harry Potter does not spend 1 month in the burrow in the movie. Like, it's just a flash in the pan, right?
We didn't even get to see all that loving up on Harry.
Right. We don't get to see the loving up on Harry. We don't get to see Mrs. Weasley cooking or him eating treacle tart. There's no fireworks show. There's no hustle and bustle of the morning that they wake up at dawn and have to like pack and get ready and get all their stuff together and then go back 3 times. There's none of that. Literally in the movie, what you see is they're at Diagon Alley. They're buying all of their school supplies, and it seems as though, the movie makes it seem as though they go from Diagon Alley directly to King's Cross Station. Like,
not exactly. Like, it does a little segue where it shows like, the city, and look, now we're at King's Cross.
Yeah,
like, it does an aerial view. Yeah.
It's a split second of just that scene change, basically.
They don't even go back to the burrow in the movie.
None of that. You don't get to see any of that. So I think that kind of, I mean, obviously when you read the book, there's so much more emotion involved. You're so much more invested because of that, right? I think it shows just how important the relationship is between Harry and the Weasleys, and just being at the burrow and spending that time there and kind of, you know how we use the word like humanizing, but like wizardizing.
Well, and building up the characters more and the character relationships and giving all that detail that you don't get in the movie. Because literally this scene starts with them running frantically toward the barrier, arriving at the station at 10:58.
Yep. And the order of the way that they go into the barrier is also different.
Yes.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Fred, George, and Percy go first. Yeah. Then Ginny goes. Then Mr. and Mrs. Weasley go, because Mr. Weasley's like, shall we, my dear? And kind of puts his arm around her, and they jump through.
Yeah.
And then when they can't get through in the movie, the clock in the train station strikes 11.
Mm-hmm.
There's no like counting down the seconds and them watching, and them like the clock strikes 11, and that's when they realize, oh no, we've missed the train.
Exactly. And then they go, and then obviously they go to the car. And in the book, that part is just a little bit, like the nuances are a little bit different, right? So Harry and Ron just kind of fly the car. Ron just flies the car up. And Harry's like, dude, don't you think Muggles are going to see us? And he's like, oh, yeah. And so he's already in the movie. He's already flown the car up. And They literally
show a man in a taxi driver sitting there watching the car take off.
Yeah. Like, what? Yeah. And then finally, Ron hits the invisibility booster, but not before they were seen. Whereas in the book, obviously, he hits the invisibility booster first and then takes off, but it's faulty, so he has that issue. And then in the movie, it's faulty too, but it's just like the timing is a little bit different.
Totally different.
Yeah. Here's another really interesting thing. In the book, I think their car ride, their car fly was quite uneventful for the most part. They just kind of go up and down and check on the train. But in the movie, of course, they try to make it a little bit spicier. And so Harry, at one point in time, when they go to try to find the train, they dip down and the train is behind them. And they're like, it's that kind of poster moment where Harry and Ron and Hedwig's eyes are all like open because the train, they realize that the train is behind them. And this is the famous Jacobite train, which you can go and visit in England. I think England. I don't know if it's Scotland. I don't know where exactly. And then Harry, when they're trying to like veer away from the train being behind them, Harry kind of falls out of the car and is holding on to the door handle for dear life. And Ron's like, hold on to my hand. And Harry tries but slips, and he's like, I can't, your hand's all sweaty. And manages to somehow crawl back onto the car, so those two scenes are.
And all of this takes place right above the train. The train is in the background as Harry's hanging, dangling for his life out of the door of the car.
Yep. And then that leads me to the question of like, okay, how come the students, or how come the conductor, or how come the trolley lady?
Why didn't you see all that?
Yeah. If I was on the train and if I saw that, and if I had an owl, or if I could borrow somebody's owl, write a note and be like, we just saw Harry Potter and Ron Weasley in a flying car next to the train, right? Like, tell an adult? No?
Clearly nobody was looking out the window, because how did nobody see that?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's quite different. And then when they arrive is also quite different, I feel. So I have a question. In the book, doesn't it seem like they don't land in the tree?
Yeah.
In the
it
movie,
says that they crash into it and then drop to the ground.
Yeah. So they're like on the ground in the car. But in the movie, they basically land like a bird's nest, like in the treetops. And then the tree is attacking the car there, and they're kind of stationary to where they can't really get out anyway. They can't do anything about it. And then the tree kind of pushes them forward and sort of releases them, kind of
it kind of punches them out of the tree, because it's like the one that comes at the windshield, kind of like, and the car slides backwards and goes down to the ground.
So that's a little bit different in that sense. And then also Hedwig. Hedwig does not fly out of her cage like she does in the book. Hedwig is still in the cage. Sure, the car regurgitates the cages, right? Shoots the cages out of the car. And Harry catches Hedwig's cage and then proceeds to grab his stuff and put Hedwig's cage at the bottom of the stairs along with his trunk.
Yeah, like when they get to the front, all the trunks and stuff are there, and so they put their trunks and cages there.
Why wouldn't he just release her? It's Hogwarts. I mean, like, she's
it would have been smarter. You could be like, all right, go up to the alleyway, see you later, and put her cage with the luggage. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. What else? So, when they're going up the stairs, it is not Snape who finds them. It is Argus Filch.
Well, so they don't stop and look in the window. They try to go up into the castle and head up to where they're supposed to be.
Yeah,
and then
they're trying to go to the feast, basically, to get it to
Yeah.
the feast. Yeah. And so then Filch gets Snape. Snape takes them to his office. They are in the same scene and stuff. And then McGonagall and Dumbledore come in together. Whereas in the book, McGonagall comes first and then Dumbledore comes in after her. But in the movie, they both arrive together. What else? Oh, when they're talking. So I really enjoyed this line in the movie where Snape was talking about how the boys flouted the decree for whatever that line is of children
underage restriction for the underage. Yeah, that one.
Whatever. That one. And then Dumbledore in the movie is like, I'm well aware of our bylaws, Severus, because having written a few of them myself, I know what's up. And I really, really like that, like put him in his place line. But that does not actually exist in the book.
Yeah.
What else?
So just small little things. So like when they're at the train station and they crash into the barrier, in the book, Hedwig's cage goes rolling across the platform and she's shrieking the whole time. But in the movie, she kind of like lets out one little shriek and she tumbles off and she lands upright. She doesn't go rolling. She's not continuously screaming. She kind of just like, one screech and she lands upright. There was something else. Then they do that whole thing. They only go down and check on the train once. It seems like a much shorter ride than in the book where it's like, an hours later, and this is what they're doing. In the movie, they go down that once, and then all that drama happens where Harry almost falls out of the car.
Yep. Oh, also, the car reversed on verbal command in the book, but not in the movie. In the movie, the car just like moves on its own.
Yeah.
There was no like reverse that Harry said or anything. And then in the end of the chapter, at the end of the chapter, they eat sandwiches and they drink pumpkin juice in Snape's office, that doesn't exist.
No.
Like literally after McGonagall and Dumbledore talk to Harry and Ron, that's it.
That's the end of the scene.
There's no more going to Gryffindor Tower. There's no like being flouted by all of the other Gryffindors, like, wow, yeah, good job, kind of thing. Yeah,
none of that. And then, so in the book, Ron is waving his wand, saying, "Stop, stop," trying to stop the car. But in the movie, he's smacking the steering wheel with his wand. He says, "Stop, stop, stop." And the third time he actually cracks his wand by smacking it on the steering wheel. Whereas in the book, it happens in the crash. Yeah. The wand breaks in the crash. And then I think I had one more that you didn't mention. Yep, you said that one. He catches Hedwig's cage. The car, like in the movie, they chase it for a minute first. Like they kind of chase it through a little tunnel and they're like, wait. And then they see it drives off behind Hagrid's hut.
Yeah. It seems like they're chasing it through the school, like through the hallways of one of the buildings.
But it's one of those walkways that's outside where you like walk under. So it drives through there and they chase after it and they're like, wait, come back. And then they get through, they see it disappear behind Hagrid's hut. And then, like you said, they go into the school, they're walking up the stairs and Mr. Filch is standing there with Mrs. Norris. And oh, we are in trouble, aren't we?
Yeah. Oh dear. We are in trouble.
And then Snape's yelling at them, and he waves the newspaper and tells them if it was up to him, he'd put them back on the train tonight.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that conversation that happens. So in the book, it's Dumbledore who says, I must impress upon you the importance of what you've done and blah, blah, blah. In the movie, it's Professor McGonagall who says those things.
Right.
And then, like
And then
you said,
that was another thing that I forgot. Dumbledore's the one who's writing to their parents in the book.
yeah, because he
Dumbledore's writing to
said
their parents.
everything that Professor McGonagall says in the movie is actually what Dumbledore said in the book. Dumbledore says, I must impress upon you the severity of what you've done. I will be writing to your parents. You will, all of that stuff. Dumbledore says all of that and then leaves it up to Professor McGonagall to decide their punishment, which it still ends up being detention. But in the book, Dumbledore says all that. In the movie, Professor McGonagall says all that.
Right.
And then, like you said, after that conversation, that chapter is over. They don't eat sandwiches. They don't go back to the common room and get, cheered on or any of that. That's just the end of the scene right there at the end of that conversation.